Welcome to Woohoo Wonder Sessions, Wild Ones. If you have work you're doing from this series, please hashtag Woohoo Creative on Instagram or Facebook. And today is Hero Day, and we're also going to use Hero Day as a hashtag. So I love thinking about people who are heroes to me or to our country or just interesting people. And Squirt and I, or JJ and I, recently went to the FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt, what's his name? Memorial in Washington, D.C. And it kind of got us thinking a little bit more about FDR and Eleanor, who was also a pretty awesome lady all on her own. I thought I would start today with talking about, I thought our big project's going to be upping our coloring game. Because we could just color her out normally, or we could add some quotes by her and possibly make her look a little cooler. And then I also have this big old book. Look at that book. This is the Public Papers and Addresses of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And this is volume 4, The Court Disapproves, 1935. What I love about books like this is a first person or historic documentation that actually was written back when. So these are the notes and paperwork of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I thought I would read this encouragement to a sick boy. So he would write letters to many sick and ill children in the hospital as part of his presidency. He thought that was a really great way to keep in touch with the people who supported him or the people who were his charges, and he would write individual letters to some children. So on March 8th, 1935, he wrote, "My dear Charles, one of your good friends has told me about you and of the splendid courage you have shown during your long illness. Just keep up your fine spirits and don't let anything at all discourage you. I am writing this little note to send you a personal word of cheer and my very best wishes. Very sincerely yours." I just think that is such an awesome thing to think about, a president of the United States writing to a sick child who he just wanted to encourage to not be discouraged and to keep cheer and best wishes in his heart. So I thought that was kind of a cool book and a neat way to kind of flip through and read some of the things he wrote about different places. It has some of his speeches in it, and it was a neat piece that I got from our local library. So Eleanor, his wife, was a pretty amazing lady as well. And what I love about the memorial in Washington, D.C. is they have, it's not just to the president, it's to the president and the first lady. So there's a whole portion on her, and she just made me happy. And this is the one Squirt's going to color a little bit later. JJ is going to color a little bit later. I also love, I've just pulled out some of my other heroes. This is, can you see that? This is Jane Austen, and JJ and I got to go to Bath, England, and see her home, and I thought that was really cool. As you can tell, I like to travel a lot, so this is Georgia O'Keeffe. She's one of my absolute favorite painters, and I am going to head to her home and her studio soon in New Mexico, so she is another one of my heroes. This is kind of a cool piece of art, and I can't read the writing of who did it, but I loved how they put the quote in, and they made her, and they kind of made her in her own landscape. And I wanted to find a way to do that with Eleanor. And this is funny, because this is the picture that the coloring was based on. Can you guys see how that was based on the same thing. She's in the same position, her eyes are the same way, but it's lightened so much so you can color it. But then they went back in and put these nice kind of almost coloring book lines onto the piece of paper. So I always like to see if I can find the original as well. And one of the ways we can up our coloring game, there's a couple ways. One of the ways is we can go and find quotes or words that are inspiring and remind you of why you're coloring this piece of paper. And I have 2 different quotes by Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent, and it is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Both of those seem pretty important right now. And this is another way I like to up my coloring game, is I go out and find my pens that I want to use and kind of pick a limited palette. And then I make a little swatch list. And I actually really I'm not a big fan of these two. These two look a little dull to me. So I'm going to put those back because I'm not interested in using those. But I want to use these 3 and maybe gray and black. So that's going to be my very limited color palette. And I know that I want to use this thought. So this was done by a very famous graffiti artist named Shepard Fairey, and he used a picture very similar to this coloring page that we saw. He used a photo of President Obama during his campaign and dropped out all the color so that there was a few different gradients. But when you really look at this piece, there's 1 is the lightest, 2, this little bit of a stripy. I'll pull it up so you can kind of see. 2 is the next lightest. Then I'm going to go here. 3 is the next lightest, and 4, and then this one's so dark we're not going to be able to write on it, 5. So there's shades, and I printed this out in black and white, but this piece, if you look it up, is done and just write in Hope Obama, and you'll see it. This is done in white and reds and blues and blacks. And it's very, very iconic. And I love how it looks. And I was wondering if we could just take a normal coloring page and do something awesome with it. So this week, when JJ was doing his homeschooling work, one of the things he did was he did a awesome, unique painting or coloring of FDR. And he made sure that FDR looked awesome. So it's kind of bringing him into the modern world. And I thought this was so cool that I wanted to do one of my very own. So I took this Eleanor Roosevelt one, and then I found the parts of her face that were highlights. So the lightest. So I'm taking my cues from this one, and these are going to be the lightest lights. So I'm going to leave those white, and then I'm going to go in and make the next lightest color red and the next lightest color blue. And this might be successful, but this might not be successful. So we're going to give it a try. And then I also wanted to put a quote in there. So no one can make you feel inferior with, which you can't quite see, out your consent. So I'm just going to go in and do one little swipe of red and see how scary this looks when you do it all by itself. But once we get it all colored, it's going to look really cool. But I like to take risks like this, especially when I'm maybe doing something that just I'm trying to seal in the knowledge and remember that we went to this awesome memorial for her and for her husband, and remember that moment that was just so fun as a family and neat to see as an American. And I've actually been to that memorial 3 times, and every single time I go, I always say it is my favorite memorial, and it's the one that always makes me cry because I'm that girl.
She always cries at this stuff.
I always cry at this stuff, says JJ. It's very true. I'm a crier. So she doesn't look great right now. I'm just going to say it. But she's going to get better. I think she needs a little shadow right here. The hard part is because I'm using such different shadow colors, I can't even like fudge it and go over and go, yep, I'm going to use this and then I'm going to use this one next to it. Because I can't really go over the top of it. So we're going to put this color next to it and start building the look. And I think it's going to look cool. So I'm thinking I might want to teach you guys how to make bubble letters too, because that's a big part of this piece. And when I finish, it will be an even bigger part because I'm going to go back and color all those in. And I will do it on this piece of paper. So the easiest way to make bubble letters is, instead of trying to really figure out how to just freehand a bubble letter, I've been making bubble letters for 40 years. Oops. So let's try to zoom it in a little bit. But the easiest way to do it that I found is to do, there's a T, let's do an O, so 2. So I'm going to make the black outline in the middle, and then really lightly, and then I'm going to go around that outline. And I like my bubble letters with squared off ends most of the time, so that's how I do it. And I'm going to go in and erase this, and you'll never know. You just know I made a pretty good bubble letter. And for O's, it's a little bit different. Just do an O and an O. And sometimes I like my bubble letters not to quite match up, but you always want to make sure you go in and back erase. So that is your easy lesson for today, and I'm going to leave it there. I hope today fills you with joy and hope, and you find heroes to think about and words that inspire you as you go about your day today.